From New York City, this is Entertainment Weekly, the show. This week I get schooled by two Einsteins, Jeffrey Rush and Johnny Flynn, round the bases with Hank Azaria and Amanda Peet. Plus, the latest Entertainment Weekly cover is 13 Reasons Why. And we're gonna hear from the stars and creators of this hit show in just a minute. It's time to get real, people, because the show starts now.
Hi, I'm Dylan.
Hi, I'm Catherine, and you're on the set of our Entertainment Weekly cover shoot. The first time we met was really uneventful. I think I'd gotten back from like a rehearsal and you were outside, like near those big fire pits, and I was like, is that Dylan? I think that's Dylan. Oh, hi.
So that's, oh my God.
Yeah, and then I went to bed.
We worked together for 7 months, hello. We did not get to do a chemistry test, partly because we were living on opposite ends of the world, but you know, they put a lot of faith in us, in our chemistry. There's a lot of different fan reactions to the show. I feel like it's specific to every person. Just like pull you to take a picture with you or something, or then some people just come up and then just say, hey, like your show has done amazing things for me and my friends, and you know, I've heard some really amazing stories from people too.
The show has affected so many people differently, and I've had people come up to me and either just like cry because it meant so much, and then you know, you give them a hug because it's like I connect with that and like I feel you, and that's such a beautiful and a really wonderful connection that is kind of the reason why I love doing this and why I love the show and talking about the show, is because there is that potential to have an impact. A few people ask me like, how did you break tension on set, or was it the same on set, because you know a lot of the content is so heavy. But to be honest, it felt like when we were doing the scenes, yes, we were treating, like we acknowledged that the content was serious and heavy, but it never felt like we were treating it as we're about to do a really heavy content serious scene. It was more just like playing with the characters. And I mean particularly with Dylan, like, and with Hannah and Clay's scenes, it was, you have those moments of lightness, which is why I think, you know, the relationship is so beautiful. It's because Hannah does go through so many awful things, and whenever she's with Clay, it's so exponentially wonderful and different to her other experiences. And Dylan's great. I mean, I think everyone on set's really fun as well. Mostly this guy. It's pretty cool. It's pretty good.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Welcome to the show. I'm here with the writer of the latest EW cover, Samantha Hale. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you.
So let's talk about 13 Reasons Why. Why do you think it's resonated with fans so deeply?
I think there are a number of reasons. I think obviously the biggest one is that it tackles some very serious issues, but it also just is a very fascinating mystery. It's a very bingeable show. I think I watched it in a day, maybe two. It's very easy to get sucked into this world. The acting's great. It's really well written. I think these are characters, especially for a younger audience, that people are really kind of relating to, and they're seeing reflections of maybe some of their experiences, which they love.
You talked about some of the difficult subjects that it's tackled: suicide, rape, bullying, the list goes on and on. It seems that the show creators took great pains to make sure that they got this correct and that they were responsible with the subject matter. Did they get it right?
You know, I don't know if I can speak to if they got it right, but I think, you know, in talking to the showrunner, Brian Yorkie, truthfulness was their number one top priority. You know, they worked with doctors both in the writing of it, and the actors had so many resources on set. There were, you know, psychiatrists and therapists there for them to talk to and make sure that they really understood what their characters were going through and were able to portray it in a way that felt as truthful as possible.
When you say truthfulness, it also feels extremely authentic. We've seen other teen shows out there, but this one feels like it actually has an element of believability that some of the others don't.
It's about really genuine high school experiences, whether you were involved in them or just know about them. Things like bullying and teasing and just how teens treat one another. And so I think it's like much easier to relate to than maybe a like crazy cyberbully who's texting you in Pretty Little Liars or something along those lines.
There will be a season 2, correct?
Yes.
What can we expect?
Well, I mean, Hannah will be back. I think that was the big question.
Is that right?
It is not, you know, her story anymore. She's no longer the voiceover. I don't know if it's coming from one other character. I think there might actually be multiple voiceovers. The showrunner really emphasized the fact that with each of her tapes in season 1, she was talking about a specific person. And we heard her side of that story, but we did not hear that other person's side of the story. So I think we'll be getting a lot more of the supporting characters, which I'm really excited about.
Sam, you were so good. I want you to stick around for the panel, okay?
Done.
All right, that's a deal. One reason to keep watching. 13 Reasons Why isn't the only TV show to tackle hot button issues. Coming up, we're going to dive deep into what happens when TV gets serious. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. Now, tackling serious issues while still remaining entertaining can be a tall order for television. Some programs get it just right, while others leave us wishing they'd keep things light. How does a show strike the perfect balance? I don't know, but I think my 3 all-star panelists just might. I'm here with a remarkable actress you can see in The Handmaid's Tale, Ann Dowd. Also joining us is Kevin Allison, comedian and the host of the Risk podcast. And EW's very own Samantha Highfill is back for more. Now let's get serious. Historically, entertainment has been about entertainment, but now more than ever, we see dramas like Scandal addressing subjects like Black Lives Matter, American Crime tackling hazing and bullying and rape. Why are we seeing TV shows take on such tough subjects?
I think it's a mixture of things. I will say, a lot of people talk about how we're in the golden age of TV. I think TV is of a better quality to where I think it can handle these issues in a more significant way. I don't think TV hasn't tackled these in the past. I just think maybe they're doing a bit of a better job at it.
Now, Anne, let's talk about The Handmaid's Tale. Women's reproductive issues are at the core of your show. Do you think your show is helping to shape that conversation?
Well, I think it's helping to expose the conversation to many more people. Things that you wouldn't talk about privately, perhaps, or even in public. It's now part of it's out there for people to see and discuss. So I think that's the way it'll help. It brings it to many more people.
Do you think the show being set in this dystopian society helps this conversation?
I do think it helps. I think distance helps. It allows for an objective. That's not me. I mean, it's not going to be me.
Right.
But I'm tugged toward it, As soon as you said it, my heart rate went up. But I think the distance provided by the fact that it's not something we can say, well, I know where that is. I've been to Gilead. Even though it's Cambridge. Hello, how about that? The Northeast, that shocks me every time I think of it.
Kevin, you don't shy away from the tough topics on your podcast at all, Risk. How do you balance sort of levity with the seriousness?
I always tell people that an episode of Risk doesn't necessarily come with specific trigger warnings because life itself doesn't either. So a story might start off hilariously funny and then take a sharp turn into a really dark place because it matches what was going on in that person's life. So there have been stories on the show about rape or murder or things like that where there were even laughs. Cannibalism, where there were even moments of laughter because people feel the need to be true. They have to go back to the moment that they were experiencing something and remember, oh yeah, there was that one totally bewilderingly silly thing that happened as well. So yeah, it's fascinating. And a lot of comedians do the show as well. And for them, it's a real challenge because they have this need to get a laugh every 10 seconds or so. Like I asked Louis C.K. to do the show, and he said, oh, that show terrifies me.
Oh my goodness.
Why did he say that?
Because
I can imagine.
He's a dark guy.
You just feel like, oh my God, if you're really trained to get a laugh every 10 seconds, there are parts of true stories where you're like, no, for the next minute or two, I should really go there for how traumatic this moment was. So it's kind of fascinating to see the way that it goes all over the place emotionally.
You know, a lot of comedies are actually getting serious as of late. Brooklyn Nine-Nine took on racial profiling. Blackish addressed the 2016 election. Is it easier for people to digest these serious topics if it's wrapped in comedy?
But I do think there are two sides to it. I think there is the one side where, much like a dystopian, aspect makes it easier for people, comedy makes it easier. But also I feel like when comedies sometimes go dark, it affects people that much more because those are the shows that they don't expect to.
Well, entertainment, I think, has changed in a way because entertainment used to be only those topics that were general, that affected enough people that enough people would watch. Now we have so many options. Right. And if there's some kind of connection, that's the great escape, in a way. Because when you're connected, you don't need to run
I want you to stay, Anne, will you? And you can bring a +2. So who will those two be? These two right here. Okay, you three stay put. I want to talk more. You guys stay put. We'll be right back with more show. We recently had a visit from Reid Scott, aka Dan Egan from Veep. He's speculating about what his character might have to say about politics, fictional and real. Take a look.
Hi guys, I'm Reid Scott, and personally I don't really have a whole lot of experience in politics, but my character Dan Egan has tons. So here's what I think his thoughts might be on some of the issues on the new season of Veep, the White House, and beyond in this segment we like to call Reid on Egan. So, Selena Meyer as a private citizen. I think it's great for her. Everyone's got to take a break. She's been just, an iconic woman, and now she can spend time with her daughter, whom she loves and is always, so kind to. She can do things like, start a hobby. She can learn how to paint. Like George W. Bush, how he teaches, all those kids to paint and those. Really? Oh, those are his paintings. Dan's job as a news anchor and pundit. This is where Dan has always longed to be. This is the perfect kind of job for this guy. We all know Dan's Machiavellian. He's a backstabber. He's a ladder climber, and now he just gets to do it, on national news, which is, what I've been told most journalists are like in real life. Jonad. Oh. Good old Jonah. I don't know that Dan would want to live in a world without Jonah. The two, they feed off each other so well that, they're sort of like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid if Butch Cassidy, wanted to murder Sundance and bury him in a shallow grave someplace out in the West. It's that classic camaraderie. Oh, good old Amy and her sister. Dan and Amy have a complicated relationship. It's tough for Dan because he's a sensitive guy, and I think he's very sensitive to the fact that Amy is just in love with him and always will be, and will probably never find anybody that's going to live up to Dan. And Amy's sister, there's also a complicated relationship there because he banged her sister. Inauguration crowd size. I think Dan actually pointed out at one point, it's not the size of the crowd, it's what you do with it. And this latest crowd size, it was not very long. It definitely did not, fill the whole mall, but it had girth. And, some people are into girth. This season's amazing. I think our writers did a really brilliant job of making a big left turn this season with everything that's gone on in this current political cycle and post-election and everything. Everyone keeps asking, how does Veep handle that? And I think Veep takes a really, unique approach to it in that we almost don't deal with it. And that's all I'm going to say about that because it's pretty exciting, the stuff that we get away with this season. So you can catch more of Dan Egan's thoughts as well as his actions on Veep Sunday nights on HBO.
Welcome back, panel. And let's talk about the current political climate. Has it become too crazy to satirize?
Oh, no. I think it's the most brilliant way to handle the catastrophe of our country at the moment. I think it's fantastic. I think that's the thing that our president finds most upsetting, is to be laughed at.
Yeah.
And I think it's the way to get the point across. It's very hard to take you seriously, except you're the president of the United States.
Kevin, who's getting it right out there?
Well, I thought it was very interesting how Colbert has this FCC investigation because a lot of people had different takes on, that joke was homophobic or, it was too disrespectful.
Oh my God.
But if you look at that 10-minute monologue, I think what really upset people on the right was that he's destroying the press. Like, it's such a great monologue of just like, here are good examples of exactly what's wrong right now. And so I think that's what gets under people's skin. But then there was also the Jimmy Kimmel thing where he went in another direction and shared like almost the kind of story that might be on risk, a really, really emotional, true story about how his child would have died if he was in a different situation with his health insurance. I think that was a wonderful conversation starter too, from someone who was ordinarily doing comedy and decided to, I'll take a risk and like share something really personal here.
You stay put. I want to keep talking to you all, but right now I've got to toss to this. All right, now it's time for a little seventh inning stretch with the stars of the IFC baseball comedy Brockmire, Hank Azaria and Amanda Peet. Check them out. How did Brockmire go from being a Funny or Die skit to an entire series that has now been renewed for a second season?
Yeah, pretty amazing. The plan for these shorts always is, well, listen, maybe if it goes well, you develop it into a movie or a series. And the video got popular, and we actually did develop it into a movie that was 4 days away from shooting, 5 weeks into pre-production, and then lost its financing.
Oh, no.
We made lemonade out of lemons, as you so often have to do in the show business.
Beyonce would be very proud of you.
Yes, she would, for so many reasons.
So, Amanda, your character Jules has to put up with Brockmire and all of his shenanigans. What drew you to this project?
Hank Azaria.
Yay!
I enjoy Hank Azaria. I really love the writing. I love the idea of being a childless 45-year-old owner of a minor league baseball team who's a light alcoholic.
Yes, as Brockmire says to her, quite romantically, I feel, we both seem to have the exact same level of functional alcoholism. And you know, when you find that, you have to hang on to it.
Talk to me about the origin of Brockmire. How did this character come to you?
As a youth, I mimicked everything I heard. One of my favorite things to mimic was this announcer voice, this, as Bob Costas calls it, the generic baseball announcer voice.
Okay.
Especially from the 70s, when I was growing up. And I always thought it would be good comedic fodder, like, do these guys always sound like this? Off the air, do they, you know, when they're having sex with their lovely girlfriends, do they call it? Do they say, oh, if you're just joining us, we have got a good one going here? Do they dirty talk this way? And Brockmire does.
Oh, yeah, he does.
Oh, yes, he does.
Finger in the keister.
Thank you for saying it. Yeah, the old fastball sign makes for a real snug butt plug, doesn't it?
Oh.
What?
My goodness.
You've heard it before.
Yeah, I know, but...
And folks, but when she signaled for the curve, that's when it got weird. When
Got
she
weird.
Yeah, see, there
Got
it is.
weird. That was pretty good. Got weird.
That got little Johnny Carson mixed in there, but that's
But like, or something really just not having nothing to do with Brockmire. Weird.
It's weird. It's weird. No, it's good.
You guys, what's it like to be a part of a show that's, you know, a little raunchy, pushes the envelope, a little over the top?
I love cable television. One of the reasons I love it, especially in the last 7 years or so, is you can be really raunchy, you can be really dark. If your comedy decides that for 5 minutes you need to be quite serious and explore genuine emotion, you can, and we do in Brockmire sometimes. It's, you know, the new golden age of television, partially because of that. And, you know, for many, I've developed other things in the past and they didn't go well, partially because the idea that I started with was either really raunchy or dark or whatever, and by the time it gets processed through the watered down filter of what you had to do in television, it's not funny or good anymore. So it's very exciting to me to be able to, not just raunchy for raunchiness' sake, but for how it's true to what these people are really like.
You've been nude a lot lately, Mr. Azaria.
I understand.
I
and in the past.
In the past.
Yeah.
Loved you on Ray Donovan. Saw a lot of you there too.
Yeah, it was nude day.
Was there
Always
there
nude.
penis?
You know what, I'm just gonna...
Oh, there was a lot.
There was penis?
There was another orgy.
Yeah, I participated in that orgy. That was more of a wife swapping situation.
Yeah.
Ray Donovan.
How did I miss this?
I don't know.
I didn't miss it. So why the need to bear all?
It's a great question. I don't blame her, but it's not like I. There was an actress who used to do. Sally Kirkland, I think. She used to actually say, "I want to be nude in this," and they'd say, "We don't need you to be nude." Like, nope, I'm going to be nude. And you're like,
That's
all
like
right,
me.
Miss Kirkland.
That's like me.
That's like, yes, that's Amanda Pete as well.
Especially after 3 kids, I'm like, when can I be naked on camera for all of the public to see? Because.
But well, we see not nude, not nudie, but we see a lot of Amanda Pete in this as well.
Yeah, body looks great.
And and I agreed. In a completely non-creepy way.
I feel the
agree.
same way about when you ran the bases. I thought that the physique was.
For 52, I'm doing all right.
Yeah,
You're doing
Keeping it
great.
tight.
Yeah, and
Keeping it tight.
I don't ask to like that. Just these roles seem to fall to me.
He wanted to do it. He wanted to do it.
They find you.
Although I'll tell you something, that was like the last night we shot. I did that naked lap around the bases, which look, if you've just scored
Oh, weird.
with the lovely Amanda Pete right at home plate, I mean, I think it's appropriate to do a nude victory lap right around those
no.
bases. Yes, it is.
No.
Oh, yes, it is.
Okay.
Stop it.
All right.
And he does. And it took us so long to make this thing, with the failed movie and then the reconfiguring
it's
it.
about
and
10 years in the making, really.
about.
Right?
And even it was an idea even longer than that ago. So it felt somehow appropriate to, throw my arms in the air naked, trotting the base. It seemed right.
Can you give me your best Brockmire announcing the start of baseball season after a long-ass winter?
I think Brockmire refers to opening day, which happens in the spring, of course, as life's most beautiful of lies. It's the illusion that it's the belief for that one day that every team out there can win the championship, except, of course, for the San Diego Padres, who just suck all the time.
I couldn't interview Albert Einstein, so I did the next best thing. I sat down with Jeffrey Rush and Johnny Flynn, who played the legendary physicist in the show Genius. Let's talk about Albert Einstein. How do you prepare to play someone who is this iconic?
We actually we never had the opportunity to work together, but we did in preparation for the role have initially Skype sessions, and then we met in England, and then we shot in Prague, and we overlapped at certain points, So we were able to spend quite a bit of time in discussion about, young Einstein, where's the join? He gets very sick in the First World War, and then suddenly I take over, and I went, yeah, he's been very sick, that's why he looks like this now, Johnny was talking about, that the young Einstein seems like he's a bohemian poet, like Rambo, he was a rebel and anti-authoritarian and all of that. And then he got more and more complacent as he got older because he became famous.
A celebrity.
Quite wealthy, and enjoyed being a bourgeois Berliner because that gave him the comfort zone to just spend all of his time that he wanted in solitude because he loved thinking,
Being
And
in
at a
his
certain
own head.
point, that's the Einstein that you know from the pictures and the video footage that we have of him, but creating him, in my case, from nothing, like from anecdotes, stories of his childhood and family records and things like that, and his friends talking about him later in life and saying when he was a student he was this kind of guy, and actually it kind of that's why we came to this decision about the sort of the slight complacency when he becomes this bourgeois
Berliner.
Yeah, because before that it's like, oh wow, actually he was very hot-headed and very impatient because he wasn't recognized as this brilliant scientist yet.
It's interesting because Einstein is one of these people, these characters that we think we all know, but
he's like an emoji.
Yeah.
And I'm going to write to the emoji people and say, look, you're really missing one because I want to use it to sign off on my texts.
The tongue face.
Because that's what people kind of know. They know their hair.
Right.
They know the famous shot when he did that at the paparazzi at some point.
So what were you most surprised to learn about him while you were doing your research?
In 1905, he wrote 4 papers whilst not even being employed as a professor or a scientist. He wrote these 4 kind of earth-shattering papers that changed how we perceived the universe while he was working as a patent clerk. He was doing it kind of under his desk, away from his boss's eyes, kind of thing. And that changed, and he was like 26, and we didn't know who he was
then nobody knew him.
Jeffrey, I read that you did research on the concept of genius to help you prepare for this role. What were you most intrigued about when studying genius, and how did you go?
Well, I wanted to kind of get a variety of definitions, I suppose, you know, and the best one I came up with, or found, a German philosopher, Schopenhauer, who I kind of had a passing familiarity with some of his ideas and stuff. But this was back in the early 19th century. He came up with I thought, you know, you'll probably find it now on a coffee cup or on a bumper sticker or something like that, saying, talent hits a target that no one else can hit. And you go, yeah, great musicians, or sports people, or whatever, and you go, that's real talent. But he defined genius that hits a target that no one else can see. And that's where I went, wow, that's where lateral thinking comes in.
But you know, it wasn't all talk about theory and relativity. I mean, Einstein had a good time. He liked the babes, right?
He had some very passionate and, you know, slightly tempestuous relationship. Had, like, you know, married twice, divorced, you know, slightly sad, tragic circumstances to his first wife. And Mileva, who's his first wife, we get to reappropriate her story and show how influential she was in helping him with the science in the early days. She proofread all his papers and stuff, and she's such a strong character, played brilliantly by Sam Colley in the series. So that's really great, because I feel like nobody knows who she is.
Jeffrey, we've got to talk about EGOTing. Do you know that term, to
yeah,
EGOT?
I do.
You're very close.
Well, yeah.
You're a Grammy away.
That's right, I'm a toe. Yes, I don't know what one does there. People keep writing things online saying, oh, audiobooks, that's the way you got to go.
Or team up with Adele or Beyonce.
Yeah.
You come and guest on
Or Johnny,
Sussex
he's
Wit.
in a...
You could take me into the band
Yes.
and get your
You could be like
Grammy, and I think they
Bears.
give everyone in the band one, do they?
Yeah.
Can we play a quick game called Rush in a Rush? I'm going to ask you a question, and then you just answer it as quickly as possible. When was the last time you were in a rush?
Panel beating Heisenberg's uncertainty principle into my head on the day of shooting.
Getting my son to school for the first day of term on Tuesday, whenever that was.
Have you ever been to Mount Rushmore?
No, only in North by Northwest, and I think all that was done in the studio.
Describe Rush Limbaugh in one word.
He's stolen my name without asking me.
Have you ever had lunch with a Russian spy?
I have, actually.
Yes, I think I might have. We toured.
If it was any good, you wouldn't know.
No, well, we toured Russia with a play, and this guy just joined our troupe and hung out because we had Marlboro cigarettes and we had hard currency and everything. And I thought he's a pretty cool guy, and we never knew whether he was just keeping an eye on us.
Really?
And last, do you ever listen to the band Rush?
No, I know of the name. Again, naming rights. They didn't come to me. There is Ron Howard did a film called Rush. Did he phone me up and say, is it okay if I use your name as the title?
No.
Nothing.
Gentlemen, I know you're in a rush, so I'm going to let you go, but thank you so much for being here. Thanks again to Jeffrey Rush and Johnny Flynn. Genius airs Tuesdays at 9 on Nat Geo. Panel, you're back. Okay. Do you think that TV is the place to go for actors who want to take on really meaty roles?
Well, I think there's phenomenal roles in film too, of course. The wonderful thing about television, in my experience, is that you come to know a character over time, and that is an extraordinary experience. It's a relationship, and it's a long relationship in many different circumstances. That's what I think is extraordinary about television, and the roles, of course, are, and the opportunities. There are many more than there were before.
True. And Sam, earlier in the show you mentioned golden age of television. Can you speak to me about that? Do you really think that we're in an era where television is exceptionally good now?
I do. I think we're in an era where television is exceptionally good, and there is just so much of it. We're in the golden age of TV and peak TV. And I think that goes to your point of there's a lot of opportunities for people who want roles, and just the roles are better, not than film, but than TV I think used to be.
Oh, that's a good point.
That's true. And fortunately for you, you write about TV.
Right.
So you're going to have a job for a while, right?
Go to TV.
Okay. And now, another treat for you Veep fans out there. I recently caught up with the wonderful actor who plays Gary on the show, Mr. Tony Hale, and we covered everything from the show's 6th season to the amazing, amazing Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Take a look. The 6th season of Veep just premiered.
Yeah.
Selena has been booted from the Oval Office.
Yes, she has.
What more can you tell us?
Here's a person, Selena, she's an awful human being. She should never have been in office. The only reason she got into office was her own ego. So that's what she had. She didn't care about the people at all. And then, so she's probably one of the most powerful people in the being in the White House. And then that's taken away, and her ego is completely freaking out because she's trying to have a life, or trying to see what she's supposed to do afterwards. And we kind of don't see what happens to presidents after they're in office. And so now she's trying to find a library. And she's just trying to stay relevant. And she's just losing her mind. And we're all losing our minds around her.
She is a complete narcissist.
Yes.
She is an awful human being.
She's an awful human being. My character thinks that she's the Mother Mary. My character is just like, you are everything. I don't understand why the presidency wasn't just handed to you because you're the obvious choice. But, my character's a little detached from reality.
Gary's also a sycophant.
Oh, yeah.
To the extreme.
Yeah.
A colossal brown noser.
Yeah. He has no identity outside of her. Like she is his identity.
What's it like to work on a political satire that's actually more real than what's currently going on in our country right now?
Because Veep is airing every night on CNN. Is that what you're talking about? One thing I think we pride ourselves on Veep is you never know which party she's in. And so there's fans of the show that are in each party, but each party thinks it's about the other party.
Yeah. Exactly.
So it's crazy, but I think everybody can somehow, especially people in DC, can kind of relate to the show because it kind of shows maybe a behind-the-scenes look of what's really going on. But the crazy thing about what's happening in politics now is a person is saying stuff in the media that if Veep had written a character like that years ago, I think HBO would have been like, that's too broad. No one's going to believe that someone would actually say that or do that in the press.
Right.
And then some of that's been happening, so it's a little crazy.
Okay, you've won 2 Emmys for this role.
I know, how did that happen?
And Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who I call Notorious JLD, she's won 5 Emmys.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. What is she like to work with? I think she's a comic genius. What do you think?
Well, she is, and I think aside from her skills and her comic genius, she's one thing I think that sets her apart, I don't know about from other people, but really I appreciate, is this business is not her number 1 priority. Her family is her number 1 priority. She treats everybody with kindness, because the thing is, whoever's number 1 on the call sheet, the lead of the show, sets the tone for the experience. And if you have somebody who's arrogant and entitled, everybody's kind of walking on eggshells, and creativity is just sucked out of a room. Someone like her, a team player, kind, she knows the power of an ensemble. It just creates this really giving, fun environment, and I think it's because of her.
Do you think comedies are in a better position to make political commentary, than say a drama?
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment because it kind of takes the bite out of it a little bit. I think with drama, it's obviously it's a serious topic and it's already heavy, and if it's paralleling what's going on too much, it's just like, But I think what's great about our show is whatever's going on with the news, people are given the freedom to laugh at our show. Yeah. And so if what's happening in the news or anywhere else, it's just like, I can't, it's just so hard. Then come to our show, it's a false reality. It's not even a reality. And they can just kind of have the freedom to laugh.
Escapism.
And take the bite out a little bit.
One of the great things about the show, in addition to the cast, is just the writing is exquisite. And the takedowns are even better.
The insults are so creative. And Dave Mandel, it was created by Armando Iannucci, and then Dave Mandel took over the show. And he has just got these amazing writers who give us an incredible foundation to play with. But the insults these people come up with are so creative, and who gets it the worst is this character named Jonah on my show. Tim Simons plays him, and they just rip him apart with some awful names. Like they call him he just has an odd shape. He's a one cell. What is it? He's a human scaffolding. I don't know if I can say some of this stuff. I won't say some of this stuff on screen because it's too bad. But they just it's like you hear it and you know it's a part of the character, but you know it's not easy to hear. And somebody, I remember Reed Scott calling me cow eyes, and I was like, easy, Trigger. Like, easy. And then I got bitchy mime. It's like, all right, whatever. But it's very creative, so they definitely come up with some fun ones.
Can we talk about Arrested Development really quickly? One of the funniest shows of all time.
So crazy.
So crazy.
Crazy show.
What was it like for you to be a part of that ensemble?
Oh, that was because I had done commercials for most of my career when I was living in New York. And then I moved to LA, and that was my first big job. I had never been on a studio lot. I had never been a regular on a TV show. So I was very much like, whoa, this is crazy. And just to work with people like Jeffrey Tambor and Jason Bateman, David Krause, Will Arnett, just really talented comic actors, it was very overwhelming. And the writing was so good. Mitch Hurwitz did it. So it was great, but it was wild. It was just wild. And Mitch Hurwitz, I remember the one day he came up to me and he said, okay, so we're thinking Liza Minnelli is going to be your girlfriend. And I was like, all right, let me just take that in. And then he was like, okay, we're thinking a seal is going to bite off your hand. And I was like, all right, game on. But it was just like all of these things thrown at you that were fun, but just like, I don't know, it was just like it was a fast moving train.
What's your favorite Buster moment on Arrested Development?
Oh man, I had many, but I would say my favorite was, there was one time in the first season when I'm talking to Jason Bateman and his character, and I'm talking about my mother, who I love, who Buster loves, but Jason asked me something, and I just went on this cussing rant that they had to beep. And then it ended with me saying she's an old, horny slut. And it just made me laugh so hard because I did have love for my mother, but then just this crazy thing came out, and that was a fun turn to play.
What's next for you? Because I don't want to end on old, horny slut.
Old, horny slut. Hopefully we're shooting some more Arrested, they say, which would be really fun. I'm just kind of doing little bits here and there. But I wrote this children's book called Archibald's Next Big Thing. It had already come out a while ago. But it talks about this little chicken who gets a card in the mail that says your big thing is here. And he's like, where? And he goes on all these adventures, but every time he's on an adventure, he's like, I got to get to my next big thing. And this bee travels around with him. And it's like, you got to just be, man. You got to just be. And in the end, he realizes that the card is right, that your big thing is right here. Because in this business, we're asked, understandably, what's next. But the challenge is to stay present. So I'm just staying here. I'm talking to you and a lovely set, friends, and that's where I am.
Perfect. I don't want to be anywhere else right now.
Yeah, right? Let's go get a smoothie.
That's our show. Thanks to all my guests. And don't forget to grab the 13 Reasons Why issue of Entertainment Weekly on newsstands now and at EW.com. And I'll leave you with a chat I had with the Catch actor Peter Krause. Bye. Peter Krause, you star in Catch. Now, when you first heard about this show, did you think it was a show about fishing?
No, but it's not a bad idea. Maybe next year we'll come back, we'll open up a restaurant called The Catch, and we'll just be the same characters, but working undercover at a seafood restaurant. Now, they called me. I was on a field trip with my son up in Oregon, in Ashland, at the Shakespeare Festival, and I came in and met Shonda and Betsy, and I wanted to work with Mireille, so it seemed like a good idea.
All right, so your character's a man of mystery.
Yep.
Bit of a trouble guy, but he's got a good heart.
He's a gentleman bandit, is how Alan Heinberg has described him within the show.
James Bond-esque.
That was Alan's idea, yeah. So when he came in and reimagined the show, he imagined this character as a con artist, but yeah, Bond-like.
So at the opening of the new season, your character is in jail. Now, in real life, you mentioned your gal. Would you ever go to jail for your gal?
Sure.
Really?
No. But here we were filming a scene inside a detention center by the Port of Los Angeles. And the director, Rob Bowman, made a point of telling me that this shower had never been used before, as if that was supposed to make me feel all right about it. But I had to put on the little nudie underwear and fight with a stuntman in this shower with, the whole crew standing by. And, one of the grips, as I walked by, all wet, was like, "You were earning your salary today, bud."
The show is also very steamy.
It is. We have to do a lot of lovemaking scenes, and all the different directors who come in have various ways of trying to communicate what they'd like to see us deliver on camera. Julianne Robinson, who's a British director, she asked for little pleasurable movements when we were filming. We had another director, Kevin Dowling, who was like to talk about animals.
Oh, and, which animals in particular?
He was talking about larger cats, like jungle cats, to us about how we should be behaving with each other. Oh. Stop just short of devouring each other was his direction.
Everyone always says it's awkward, sex scenes are awkward. Is that true?
For Mireille and I, it's not awkward. What's awkward sometimes is when you look up and you see some grip just leaning against the wall, like not paying any attention.
So you've played so many great characters on Sports Night, 6 Feet Under, Parenthood. Which one are you most like in real life, if you had to say?
I would say Adam Braverman from Parenthood.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Why do you think that is? Explain to me. What is it about you that feels that connected to that character?
Like him, I want to be a good dad, and he's a goofy guy.
I'm going to mention a title of your previous project, and you tell me what comes to mind, okay?
Okay.
Okay, Sports Night, memory, what comes to mind?
Playing poker up above the soundstage. We played an ongoing poker game, and it got to the point where work became a disruption to the poker game.
You're interrupting.
And Josh Charles and Josh Molina playing a game they called bag tag, where they try to hit each other in the nuts with a tennis ball.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just like poker.
Josh Molina took a tennis ball one day. I said, don't do it. You hit me with a tennis ball in the nuts, I will punch you in the face as hard as I can. And so I did not play bag tag.
Speaking of under, 6 Feet Under, what comes to mind?
So much. I mean, I'm just flooded by thinking about all the episodes we did. But I guess the pilot, really, when we were filming that pilot episode, and Michael Hall and I, Michael also went to NYU, and what a great time we had working with each other. We had the same training at NYU, all the same instructors, so there was a built-in language that we had with each other, and what a gift that was for us to get to work with each other on that project, and what a terrific job Alan Ball did for those 5 seasons. And I think that by cutting it short, because HBO wanted to do 2 more seasons, I think he elevated the entirety of the series into a work of art by ending it when he did and the way he did.
Parenthood.
Nora O'Brien is the first thing that comes to my mind. She was an NBC executive who we unfortunately lost on set during the pilot, and she was a very good friend of mine. We'd worked together before, but very, very special person. But, yeah.
Gilmore Girls.
Lauren.
Why do you think that show still has such a hold on fans after all these years?
It's bright, and I think that it's like comfort food. People look forward to sitting down and enjoying spending time with the Gilmores. It's a lot of fun to watch. Lauren wanted me to play that role, and I always wanted to be a park ranger as a kid, so
you did?
I got to do it for half a day.
And the catch?
I say working with Mireille is the first thing that comes to my mind. It's so much fun working with her, and we're always looking for more time together.